Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today is my co-host Mike Hill and our producer Nick Wilson.
Somebody needs a
here.
camera on him at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
At
like
least they know he's here now. At least I'm giving him some
I
credit.
know, but like when we do introduce him, there needs to be like a camera that'd be like the person you never see this is him.
Well, I
Like,
think I'm working on something maybe, so
Okay,
we'll see how
got
it
it.
goes. So anyways, today with us is our guest is Kelly Dyson.
Yay.
Hi, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah. So I want to talk about your family a little bit.
Okay.
But her son, Kale, and her daughter-in-law, Paige, were on a few weeks ago. So if you have not listened to Kale and Paige's podcast, please go and do that, because I know Mike and I both still think it was a pretty amazing and podcast. So you did really well. And I told you that, raising him. So I was very impressed with who they are as a couple and individual, too, what God's doing
We
with
always
them.
do our best, but you never know. But yeah,
Right.
I'm thankful.
Yeah. So what other children do you have then?
Yeah, so I have two daughters. The first one is Cassie, and she's, married to Stephen.
How old is she?
See, I knew you were going to ask.
Oh, because I don't know the age of my
Kale's
kids either. Like I think there's
26.
somewhere.
Kale's 26, so Jessica would be 33. Cassie is 35.
Okay. See,
Wow.
listen, you at least know. I'm like
Right.
somewhere in the 26, 7.
Well, Isaac's 22. I do know that.
Okay.
He's Trevor's age, so.
Yeah. Lexi Brady. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I got
hard.
some idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're in their 20s, higher 20s.
Yeah. So anyway, there's Cassie, our firstborn, and she's 35, married to Stephen Grossman, local farmer in Urbana. They have 3 kids, Keaton, Adley, and Corbin. And then
And that's what he does for a living? He's a farmer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what they do. So they're close by. And then our second daughter is Jessica, and she's 33. And she and her husband, Cody, live in Pendleton. So, and they have 2 little kids, Weston and Kyla.
How'd they end up
So-
down there?
Well, through Cody's job.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually, they've been a few different places, but end up finding some acreage in Pendleton, which
Oh,
is what they
awesome.
wanted, because they didn't really like the city life.
Yeah.
So anyway, found some acreage, built a house, and I think they're happy where they're at now.
Yeah,
So
good.
they're not too far away.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they have Weston and Kyla. So I've got the 5 grandkids. And
Do you
and then
enjoy being a grandma?
I love it.
Is it better than being a mom?
Well, it is, because for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the responsibility. But I have to say, I loved being a mom.
Okay.
And I still love being a mom.
Yeah.
I
It's in
my
your
kids are
nature.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, being a grandma is super special. So
Right.
yeah, love it.
Yeah.
And
And
it's been a
super
great
close
thing.
to your family.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
Yeah.
yeah.
We're
Were you
very close.
ready to kick him out of the house, or were you like keep him in?
Oh, I would have never kicked him out.
Oh man, I'm kicking. I'm like, they can't get out of here fast enough.
No. My
Okay.
kids can always come back home or what.
Yeah, no, I meant when
I
my
mean,
kids
not
were
that you
growing up,
couldn't,
I'm like, here's your choices. If you go to college, you can come home in the summer. Once you're done with college, you need to move on. Like, or if you're not going to college, you need to find a place to live, because I'm ready for the empty nester stage. Sarah is a complete opposite. She's like, oh, if they stay with me forever, I'll keep doing their laundry up until they're.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
See, that's a mom thing, I
Ugh,
think.
Judas.
But-
Ugh. Jennifer's
anyway.
like,
Yeah.
So if I'm going by your rules, my kid should be gone. Gone.
yeah, no, but I just
In
think
time.
people are different.
And
Yeah.
I'm fine. They just can't afford it. That's
Yeah.
the thing. They can't afford to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll be coming.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, when you have 8 kids running around in a 1,600 square foot house, you can't boot them out fast enough.
Yeah. That would be
Right.
that might be a little different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. I was
that's
just
okay.
like, I was curious because I mean, from a grandpa standpoint, because I even think there's a difference between grandma and grandpa.
Yeah. How many
piece of it.
grandkids do you have?
3,
Oh, you have 3.
4,
Oh, sorry.
5,
now? I think
6.
you said six.
6.
Oh, my word.
6 grandkids now. And so Corbin and Haley moved out to Arizona. So they're out in Arizona. So that's a little bit tougher because now you just, like Solomon, their new baby, like we don't and I have to process this because he's following the call of God. Like, you're not going to get to see him grow up, so that's a little bit weird. Like, I don't know how, that'll all go. And then Abby is down near Fairmount, so they live there. So they're far enough away that you don't get to see them all the time. And then Allie and Jacob are here in town, so they just had a new baby, and so Brody, and so
I didn't realize you had 6.
Yeah,
almost 7.
Oh
Abby's
yeah, Abby
soon.
will be having her baby in March, so 7 grandkids, and so I'm trying to figure out that whole, because I said this I think on the last podcast, like some people are like, everything that my grandkids do, I'm going to be at everything, and I'm like, I have 8 children. If I am not going to be sitting in a gym and running around to watch because Abby Hadley had, and I went to one of them, like she had this T-ball game. So you drive an hour down there, and I'm like, we're seriously watching kids that, I mean, it's so awful. But I mean, Hadley's super excited. She's out there,
And,
when your kids were young, did they ever do this? Like, they're out there, they're not really playing. They're just playing in the dirt and picking dandelions. And I'm sitting over there thinking.
And you're like herding cats trying to. Eric had coached like Emma's soccer team or something. And it was like awful. I mean, like 3-4-year-olds. And it's like you can't get them to do anything. And you just have to, it's just.
Yeah, we never made it to her. She's like playing Hadley's playing basketball too. And they're like, we got this. I'm like, I am not going to watch a 5-year-old dribble a basketball around.
At least one. You have to go to one.
Oh, Judas.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. That's off the subject. I'm like, I think I'm going to be a bad grandpa that way. Like, I got to figure that part out.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm like you, I just thought, well, I'm going to go to everything once he's, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, I have realized, as young as they are, the oldest one's 9, but I can tell already I'm not going to be able to get to everything. And so that's hard to think one of them's going to be doing something. I'm not going to be there watching them. But I have come to the realization there's no way. I can see already I can't be at everything.
Okay, this is off the subject, so I got to ask you this.
Okay.
So if you don't want to answer, you can not answer it.
Okay.
So Sherry's mom, Chuck died when he was 51, so she was 49, 50 years old. She chose not to get remarried so that she could go do whatever she wanted and not have the thought of having to divide her time. Has that ever ran through your mind? Like, of the idea of getting remarried again with the thought of, man, I don't want to have to think through, and you don't have to answer. I just thought of that as like, will that be hard with the choice of what you do with the next chapter of your life, with the idea that you won't or might not be able to go to everything because maybe that person has grandkids too, and
right. And no, I haven't gotten there.
Okay.
To be honest,
nope, that's perfect.
I haven't gotten to that point to where I have thought through it that much.
Yeah.
Because to me, my family is just, it's everything.
No, I know.
And so,
that's what she said.
So
she was like, I would rather be single and not have a partner if I can go do whatever I want.
Right.
Which I was the complete opposite. Like, I would be terrible being alone. Like, I didn't realize how much you depend on your wife until she's gone. Like, I had no idea that I was that needy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Why are you laughing? You are because you already knew it.
Because I know you.
Like, I had
he
no.
couldn't
Well,
survive
it's
on
funny
his
that you
own.
say that, because you're like, I'm never going to get remarried again. I'm never going to get remarried again. You always said that since I've known you. That was never, and then it was like, even after she passed, you're like, nope, not going to. Then one day you're like, yep, nope, I can't do this.
No, I just didn't realize how, like what you have. You don't realize what you have until it's gone.
It's like you didn't even want to open your mail, and you paid for Abby to do your laundry.
Oh yeah, no.
Because you're like, you didn't want to do any of that.
No,
So,
I just have to admit, you could ask Sarah this. I might be the more needy than I thought.
Oh, now see, I'm kind of the,
that poor woman. I was like,
She's like,
I finally realized how much of you needed a wife. But anyway, I couldn't make that decision. I would have never been good alone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I don't like being alone, but it's for different reasons. Like, I don't feel needy. Like, I'm capable of doing everything.
Yeah.
As far as I don't need anybody. There are certain things I can't do, but like, I can take care of myself. I can do my thing or whatever. But I never was one to be alone.
Yeah. from a companionship standpoint.
Yeah, from
and,
that, it's like,
having somebody to
now
share
what?
life and
Right. But yet, I know I can take care of myself and I can do all these things. But yeah, it's not fun to be alone.
Yeah. Sorry. That
But
was
no.
just, I wanted to, because I always,
Yeah.
again, knowing my own situation, how I had to process those feelings because, again, in the beginning, it's almost like a betrayal. Like the idea that you would ever love somebody again was almost like, am I
like you're cheating on
betraying
that person?
Yeah. Am I betraying the person that I met when I was 15 years old? Like the idea that if you could ever love somebody again, that it's almost like I had to come to grips with that when you choose to love somebody again, it's not replacing the love that you had because you always will love that person.
Right.
But it's a new love and it's a new chapter and a new place because in the beginning, that was some of the biggest barriers for me was like, man, this is the person I've known my whole life, and the idea of even thinking about another woman would be like, is she up there in heaven ready to like
Beat on you?
Well, because she told me, she said the last month of her life, she's like, don't you ever get remarried.
Oh, gosh. Oh, you had a lot to think about.
And
then.
you just got to know Sherry, because I get it. I would be the same way. If that's who you grew up with and that's all you ever knew, the thought of somebody else having the person that you love, like, I get it. Like, I don't fault her for those feelings of.
Well, that's funny. Of course, I know a lot of people may not understand where I'm coming from yet because I'm kind of jumping ahead here. But to your, what you just said that Sherry told you, the summer before Troy passed, we didn't even know he was sick, okay? And we're up at the lake house, and I can picture it like it was yesterday. And he says to me, looking back, I knew he was having pain then, and I feel like he kind of knew something, but didn't,
Yeah.
But he said to me, now he said, if anything ever happens to me, he said, you need to get remarried. And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, I was looking at him like, I said, we're going to grow old together. That's the plan, And he said, I'm just saying, you're so young, you're young. If something ever happens to me, you need to get remarried. You shouldn't be by yourself all the time. And I'm like, well, that's really nice of you to say, but, and I told him, I said, I don't know that I could tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, now if something happens to me, you get remarried,
Yeah.
Because to think of your spouse with someone else, that's hard.
Yeah, because I'm already a jealous person. Like, I'm a jealous person naturally. So I'm like, I can still to this day remember talking about, I was married for 28 years, and I can still to this day remember the boyfriend that Sherry had before me. And I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about it. I'm like, I am the weirdest person that way. Like, the idea that somebody else kissed my wife.
Oh,
that whole, what?
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
just
those are my
listening.
feelings. Like, I'm a jealous.
That's a real thing.
Unfortunately, I'm like, she's mine. You
don't want to think about that person ever loving someone else. It's like, wait, no, I want to be their person.
Right.
So,
lots of feelings afterwards to work through. Yeah, lots
the mental
of.
part of all this has been huge.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I got off on a
that's
tangent,
fine.
but I'm curious how other people, because obviously I sought counsel afterwards to kind of work through my feelings because they were a little bit weird, and I'm like, I went to Stephen Twilalee and I'm like, hey, I got to tell you this, like, this is what I'm feeling. Am I sinning? Is it like, where am I at? How is this going to, because the other thing for me was whatever decision I made, 600 or 700 other people are going to care because it's the church, I mean, it's the person I planted a church with. It's the person that we've been here from the beginning. And so
They're watching you.
Whatever decision I make, people are going to have. So I had to really process that because I processed my feelings, but that's why I've never really talked to somebody else about, like, I wonder what other people think after they lose a spouse. What do they, how, other than Diana, who was like, I'm good.
And that was part of my comfort in coming and doing this today. And I mean, I'm sorry that you went through what you did, but that was part of my comfort is knowing you would understand.
Right.
Whatever I was talking about or whatever, like, you would probably back me up on what I'm saying or be able to express, how it was for you. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. And those feelings, and again, that whole, I think it's an everlasting transition till the day that I die. Because I told Sarah this the other day is that, you start all over. Like you're learning to love somebody all over again, and it's when you grow up with somebody, you learn to love them through the whole process, and you grow up with them, you have kids with them. That's just different now that you're older, to learn to love you well as a wife. I mean, you got to start all over and start to get to know that person. And because again, you can date anybody, but how do you really know them? I mean, at this age, because it's not like you're going to date for 5 years. That would be weird.
Yeah. How are you ever going to get to know that person like you knew your first person?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just different. You can't explain it.
Sorry, Jennifer. I hijacked.
Sorry.
I hijacked right from the beginning. She's only talking about her kids, and I already hijacked the moment. So I apologize.
So I had the girls. They were 9 and 7 when Kale was born. He just has been sure he was not playing. He's like, you guys didn't mean to have me. You couldn't have. I'm like, no, we really did. But we just got kind of busy on the farm at a certain time in life, and there was no, So anyway, then we got back to a place where we weren't quite as busy because we had taken over a big hog operation, and just took all of Troy's time. So anyway, then got that ended, and anyway, then we're like, okay, if we're gonna have that third child, we probably need to be thinking about it, So,
were you hoping for a boy? Like, was that ever going through your mind of like Troy's a farmer and like passing it on to his kids? And
you would think that would be a big part of it.
Yeah.
But with our first one, Troy wanted a boy.
Oh, okay.
I think that's typical.
Yeah.
Well, we had a girl.
Yeah.
Well, his heart turned to mush, and he loved her so much. And then we had the second girl. Well, she was just as special to Troy. I mean, he loved his girls. I loved the girls. Having girls, we were fine having a third one.
Okay.
Well, lo and behold, here came Kale.
Yeah.
And when he was born, I could go into a whole nother story. Anyway, long story short, Troy wanted to know what we were having, and I didn't.
You could do that back then?
Yes.
No, I didn't know.
Just through, with an ultrasound. Anyway, long story short. So I went and had my ultrasound done, had the tech put in an envelope what it was, gave it to Troy because he wanted to know. And so he knew we were having a boy. Okay. But I didn't. So anyway, that was kind of...
He held that secret the whole time? Wow, I could never do that.
Yeah. So we had Kale. And that's our family. And he and Paige don't have children yet. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you like to do for fun?
Oh, well, that's one thing that I'm still trying to figure out now because Troy and I were together all the time. And I mean, we ate 3 meals, that's kind of how a lot of farmers are. Maybe they aren't anymore. But
so he still farmed because you said you had a hog operation. You got rid of that, but you still had like row crops or something?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And hogs of our own. This was a different farm we moved to that we took over for someone, then moved back to our house. But anyway, so, see, now what was your question?
Yeah, what do you do for fun?
Going back to farming.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, So anyway, my life has always been Troy and the family.
And the lakes.
And the lakes. That came along later. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a good thing, too.
Because you were a stay-at-home wife,
Stay-at-home.
mom. Okay.
Yeah, I worked until I had Cass. And after that, with farming, it's up and down, up and down. You have good years, you have bad years. So on the bad years, I'd be like, Troy, I'm capable of working. I can go back to work. And he's like, He said, I like having you home, and it wouldn't be worth it, blah, blah, blah. So every time I offered to go back to work, he said, he didn't control me and say, no, you're not going back to work. He's just like, you're worth a lot to me to have you at home. Right. So, yes, I've been at home for many years, just doing what the kids need, what Troy needs. We did construction projects together, all sorts of things. So without him, this has been a big change. So, I don't know. The last 3 years, I've just been trying to put my life back together.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
I do enjoy myself. Don't get me wrong. I I embraced, my family, the grandkids, all that stuff. So,
Right. But I think this is, I think this is a good subject, like that idea, even before we get into your whole story. But
Okay.
as you are figuring it out, so can you talk to, because I know that we're going to have people listening that are in the same place. They've lost somebody. They're trying to figure out the next chapter. Can you I don't know how much you want to share about your feelings and where you're at today of trying to, because when you say put your life back together,
Yeah.
what does putting your life back together, and what have been some experiences that have been good for you, and what have been some experiences of like,
Yeah. So let me say first, when I say putting my life back together, a sermon that you did comes to mind. And not that you would remember this, but I text you after the sermon because I was like, thank you for that. That really resonated with me and made total sense. And it was when you had like a vase or a glass, something that was broken and shattered.
Yeah.
And you said, trying to put that back together, it's never going to go back together the same. I will never forget that.
That was a monumental time in my life. It was the pivotal moment in my life where I finally, because this was the thing about the poor church. The church was along the journey with me because every Sunday I preached that Sherry was sick. And as she was going through that, I was just preaching me. It was my emotions. It was my thoughts. I feel sorry for the church because it was every Sunday. It was just like, here's what this is God talking through me on me trying to navigate. So mine was very public. I would just get up on Sunday and be like, this is what I'm navigating. Because I have been, since Sherry died, trying to put this vase back together. And every time I get that dumb sucker back together, it doesn't even look the same. And it'll never be the same. And I can't, as much as I try and as hard as I try to put it back together, it never works. Never works. It was pivotal for me. I always remember that. And I do remember when you sent me the text. Because I just know that for anybody that's been trying to do that, because the funny thing about it is it's not even just in losing somebody. Yeah. And that's why I wanted you to talk about it. Lots of people are trying to put their life back together, whether it's losing somebody, whether it's a transition in life, whether it's like, there are lots of people that are trying to figure out and navigate a new chapter.
Yeah.
Like
there's a lot of circumstances that can, pull the rug out from under you, and then you're, I don't want to say forced to start something new, but you are.
You are.
And when you were going through what you were going through, and like you say, getting up there every Sunday and talking, of course, I'm like, I'm right there with you. Like, it's all making sense to me. And when you did that, I'm like, he's right. I can't keep trying to make this be what it was, because it will never be.
Right.
And I could spend the rest of my life and trying to make it what it was, and it's just not going to happen. So I'm trying to figure out, here it is 3 years later, and I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how do I make the best use of my time now that I'm still here. So I'm not going to just sit at home and let all this consume me. I need to do something, and I'm slow at it, but I'm one of those people that I have to cross this bridge before I can cross or think about crossing the next one. So I've just been going step by step, and I feel like I've made a lot of progress.
Did you ever struggle finding joy after Troy? Like the idea of like, not that you're like in a depression, but the whole like, and again, I'm just speaking from my own, like when you center your life around a person, right or wrong, and
I don't want to interrupt you, but on that as well, that's one thing I learned. I counted on Troy for everything, way more than God, and that's not right, but it's the truth. I counted on him. He was always there for me, and thinking now, I'm like, so was God, but I wasn't. That's not where my mind was.
Right.
If I needed anything or had Troy was my person, and I leaned on him for everything.
Yeah.
And I should have leaned more on God because God is always there for you. And not that Troy wouldn't have been, but like, he's not here for me anymore. And so losing him, and I don't mean poor me, don't get me wrong at all.
No,
I'm
again,
just
it's your
saying,
story, and that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
see, like
it's
how
not
God
like-
works through that.
I mean, but yeah, I counted on him, and he's not here.
Yeah, because that's for me the pivotal point before I did the vase message. Like again, as clear as you can hear God speak, the question that he asked me is that, do you love your wife more than you love me? Because if you loved me, you would move on to the next chapter, because you would know that I have you, that I have a plan for you, that you can be used. And I honestly had to think about it. And I'm the pastor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the pastor of the church. And I did, because I was in such a rut of like, you love somebody so much, and then you get to this pivotal point, rug pulled out, get to a crossroad. I mean, it's whatever. I had to
Yeah.
answer the question, because if I do love him more, then I will accept the new vase and the new chapter and the new way, and I'll stop trying to put it back together. That's how that message came about, because not that I was, I don't know, maybe I was depressed. I don't know what my feelings were.
Yeah.
Whatever they were, I was not in a place that was right. And I had to come to the crossroads. I had to come to as I had to make a decision, and it was, who did I love more?
Right.
And isn't that crazy that I even had to that God even had to ask me that question?
Yeah, but it's real.
Yeah,
It's a real,
I know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I ask you is that, like, because
Yeah.
there are people out there, whether it's the loss of a child, whether it's the loss, because even today, there are people who have lost parents, and even though these parents have been older in life, it's a new chapter, it's a new thing, it's a new, like, whatever that, pull the rug out, come to the crossroads, when that part of your life is missing, whatever that is,
Yes.
the struggle to move on or the struggle to continue on is a struggle. And that's why I just wondered, when you talked about all that, kind of what your emotions were as you worked through some of those things.
Yeah, and some of my advice for whoever wants to hear it is, make God number one. And even though I already knew that, I really know it now.
Yeah, for sure.
If you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it that much before, because Troy and I, as far as our marriage, we were living the dream.
Right.
So it was all good. And I was caught up in all of it.
Yeah.
And like I say, leaned on Troy way more than God.
Yeah.
Way more. And looking back, my advice is just,
Yeah. So as you're
But
putting
God-
the pieces back together, that's
God
some of the
needs to
advice
be
for our
first.
listeners is like, lean into the one that's not going to move.
yes.
You're not gonna
because
lose 'em.
anything here on earth, you don't know.
Yeah.
And no, Troy and I, he used to say, oh, as long as we're together, we'll get through anything, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, well, not ever thinking one of,
Yeah.
you just don't ever plan on one of you not being here. And then it happens. Like, I'm still like, whose life am I living?
Yeah.
This is not my life.
Right.
You get that feeling like, this isn't my life.
Right.
Well, it is my new life, and
Right.
I've accepted it. I've been at the crossroads, like you're talking about. And yeah, you have to choose, and luckily I've chosen to follow God's plan
Yeah.
and be open to God's plan. And that's hard.
Yeah.
But I've learned I'm not in control.
Yeah.
If I was in control, I wouldn't be in the situation I am today. And,
Right.
And there again, I don't mean feel sorry for me. I'm in this horrible situation. I don't mean that at all, because everyone gets in these situations at some point, it seems like, in life. And you've said that so many times on Sunday. Like, if you haven't had that,
Get ready.
get ready, because it's coming.
Something's coming.
And so it is so important, I see now, and not that I didn't think it was important before, but this has just brought so much to light for me. It is important to have that strong foundation,
Yeah.
because without that, like, I didn't I knew I had a good relationship with God prior to Troy's passing, but I was pleasantly surprised to learn it was as strong as it was to keep me where I needed to be, you know, and I can't imagine, I feel for the people that don't have that foundation because I can't imagine getting through something so devastating without that foundation.
But I think that's the powerful part about your story, because Scripture is clear about this, right? That we will all be tested, right? The idea that, and tests can come in multiple different ways.
Exactly.
And the idea of what Scripture says is it's in those tests, here's what you will find. Was your foundation secure or was it built on sand? And again, I believe that for a lot of people, when they come to the rocking of their life, the rug being pulled out, the crossroads, they found out it was sand. And the powerful part about your story is that, yep, all the windows got blown in, the roof came down, the house seemed destroyed, but the foundation was there. The power of your story is that's what we have to remember. The foundation will stand. We can rebuild. We can move off of that, but we also, the fall can only go so far.
Right.
I think that's what's so cool about the foundation. The fall can only go so far because you are going to hit the foundation.
Yes.
And rebuilding isn't maybe what you wanted to do, but at least you can rebuild. At least you can rebuild.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I give all the credit to God because if I hadn't had that foundation, I wouldn't have been able to put one foot in front of the other.
For sure.
That is how devastating
Yeah.
and mind-blowing this whole thing has been. And I feel for those that if they don't have that strong foundation, I just want to say it's important to build it just because, I mean, I hope everybody could, I wish everybody could go through life and not have something happen. But gosh, it does happen whether you think it's going to or not. I mean, I never dreamed.
Yeah. And just think, this is the thing that I always say is that just think now, like how good it was then, but think now that your foundation has been tested and your faith is now stronger than it's ever been. Now think about how God's going to use you. You know what I mean? Because that's the part I always look at is that I never would have asked for any of this, but I also, there's something different in me. I mean, it just is. Losing a spouse, going through things, each one of those things that you have in your life, if we allow God to work, builds our faith and gives us chances to do things that 10 years ago you weren't prepared for. Like, you just weren't. Yeah. I mean, you can't get it, and you don't wish it on anybody.
Yeah.
But you also can't get it until it comes. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
I just think you just need to take over and let's start talking more about her story.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 33 minutes in, so I think
Well, again, so can I just touch on a couple things? Because, I mean, I would like to go, like, what I know about your story. Because I think that part's kind of funny, you know, is that I always heard it through Tad.
Oh,
You know, I would...
this is
you
going to
may
be...
learn something, Kelly.
No.
This is going to be interesting.
And so I'm going to say this is
just-
as clear as I could understand it.
Okay.
But I can remember, so when Tad, you know, essentially started coming to church and really giving his life over to God, Tad was seriously praying for and concerned about his friends. And Troy was one of his best friends, if not his best friend. And I can remember Tad talking about, like, be great to get Troy to come to church, you know, back. Because, again, I don't know anything about how you guys grew up or what any of those things look like, but I know for Tad, it was really important. And then once you guys started coming, the transformation in Troy, I would hear through Tad of like, you can't believe it. I mean, the transformation that has happened in Troy's life was like incredible. So can you kind of give us some of the backstory? Like I said, I'm only giving what I saw from the outside or heard.
Sure.
You know, and then saw when we went and visited him as he was dying, his faith. Like that's the thing I did see. So once I did, like you guys are like, hey, it's not good, you know, and we're going to go over and talk. to hear him talk was not like a man that had no faith. I mean, this was a man that now faith was a huge part of. And again, I'm not trying to discount what happened in any of what he was like before. I'm just giving this view of what I saw.
So, for both of us, okay, so me growing up, went to church here and there. It wasn't something that was an every Sunday thing. But, I mean, my parents were believers. You know, it's not like we were bad people. Okay.
You weren't a complete heathen.
No, not completely. So, and Troy was raised in church.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you would ask him, he said, we went every Sunday. We went every Sunday night and Wednesday nights.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
That's what he would say. So he was raised in a church, you know, was baptized, you know, as a younger individual. And he knew a lot about the Bible.
Yeah.
So after we got married and stuff, though, I don't know. He had a bitter taste in his mouth from some people thinking, he felt like some people thought they were better than others when they're at church every Sunday and doing this and that. And Troy was one to feel like, hey, we're all the same. Nobody's perfect. But he felt like some people, you know, thought they were. So anyway, he just wasn't interested in going. Well, we had our children, and I tried to get them to church. You know, I would take them, and that was one thing that was hard for me, is that I didn't have a husband that was going to church with me. You know, I'd look around on Sunday mornings, and there's these couples, you know, and the husband has his arm around the wife, and they're listening. I'm like, oh, that would be nice, you know. But I mean, nothing against Troy. I don't mean that.
No.
But I felt like it was important to get the kids to church. Okay, so I thought we would never go to church together as a couple, you know, on a regular basis. Well, lo and behold, you know, we started coming in, I think it was like the fall of 2018, and came once, came twice.
Yeah.
We're in,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I never thought I would see the day that Troy and I, and especially with him willing and wanting to go, I never thought that day would come. And it did. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so good, you know, because it's not like I'm saying, just come to church with me. I mean, he's like,
He was
we're
on
going
fire.
to church.
Like, he really wanted to.
Yeah. So that was a blessing, you know, just he and I coming to church together again. That was so good. And then, you know, plus then getting to, you know, building somewhat of a relationship with you, you know, and he was doing the small group at Tad's.
Yep.
And, you know, all along not knowing how much we would need someone like you in our lives, you know, not having a clue. And I feel like that's one of the things that God was working in our lives. And long before we ever knew anything was even wrong. And I didn't realize it until now that all this has happened and I'm looking back. But, you know, the timing of us coming here to church, his faith being rekindled, and him wanting to come to church, the opportunity for us to be together at church, and the unfortunate things that were, you know, coming soon in our lives. And we have Mike to go to for help, comfort, peace, you know, whatever, I don't know what you want to call it. But we needed you.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't had you at that time, I don't know. It would have looked very different.
Right.
And I'll never forget you coming that first time. And, you know, and there again, that's when it all started. Like, what are we doing here? This is weird. What are we even talking about this kind of stuff? How can this be? How can we even be in this situation? But anyway, you know, you were helpful. We, unfortunately, 6 weeks later, needed you for his funeral. Yeah. You know, it all happened so fast. And then on a more positive thing, you know, Kale gets married. We had someone that we wanted to come to see if you would be involved, you know, and be there for us then, because I know you help so many families and you're there for so many people. So I don't know what it meant to you, but for us to have you, like, you're special to our family, you know.
Well, the thing that I will never forget, because there's nothing, I said this to Susan Heupel this morning. So her ex-husband, the Heupel, Mark, is dying, essentially, and so he's over in the nursing home. And I've said this in it's even harder now after losing Sherry, but every time that I go, knowing, listen, you're going to sit with a family and you're going to talk to a person that time is short. What do you say? You know, this has been all of my life in all ministry, because I've sat with families who have 15-year-old sons and daughters and lost babies, and like, what do you say? And I'll never forget, you know, walking in and, you know, coming and talking to you, and then being able to talk to Troy. And in fact, I even look back on this after Cale said that on the podcast. I went back because I came home and I wrote in my journal, you know, to pray for Cale, because you said, like, listen, I don't know how he's going to take this. He's really close to his father. I think that his questions are going to be like, why and how does this happen? And if God's really a good God, how's all this going to be? Yes. And I remember before I left that day, I went and talked to him, and he did. He said, I'm mad. I'm upset. I finally have this, you know, I had this relationship with my dad, and my dad is the center of my life. And so to see all of that come to fruition, I got to see him love Jesus, see him get married, see him give his testimony. I mean, this is why I'm in ministry. Yeah. Like, the idea that you get to be with families in some of the most, because again, this was the other part of it, talking to you and then going to Troy. Like, sometimes for a new believer, your expectation would be like, why? But he never said that to me. He never looked at me and he never said, man, what happened? Like, I finally got it right. Like, he never went down that road. When I come and talk to him, like, he never went down the road of why me. Yes. This is what was exciting. Like, he and you guys were still on mission to say, we're still going to try, in the best of our ability, in a circumstance that makes no sense, we're still going to glorify God. Because he even said, like, I hope that my testimony through my death will reach my friends. I mean, that again, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that you just, you don't want. But now that you go, fast forward 3 years and you look back, that the way that God worked.
Yeah, and I feel funny having these notes, but it's just because I didn't want to forget anything, but I'm just going to go briefly through a few things. You know, I said we started coming to church in 2018. So July of 2019, we bought our third lake house to, like, remodel. We had purchased one on Tippy, total redo, and it turned out pretty good. We enjoyed working together, doing that kind of thing. So did that. It was, great experience. Went to Wawasee, bought a place there, got it fixed up, got it sold. Well, we love being at the lake, so Troy's like, we got to find another lake house, to do. I'm like, okay, So we were working with this realtor. This house came about that it didn't need that much work. It just cosmetic, painting, just little things, and the cost was way more than we had spent before. And Troy's, saying, "What do you think?" I'm like, "We can't do this. Why would we? This is just too much, And he's like, and I'm like, I can't believe he's even thinking about this. I'm the one that worries about finances, and so anyway, long story short, we asked the realtor, can we make money on this place or whatever? And the realtor's like, oh, you probably won't make much, but you might hold your money together. Yeah. Troy's like, I'm in. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But, okay, Troy's the one that makes the money. I'm the assistant in this thing. So, okay, so we'll do this. Well, long story short, so we made our improvements to the house right away, painting. He changed all the hinges, updated that kind of thing. So then he's getting to where he's expressing that he wants more of my time. And I say that because, like, he wanted to be up at the lake more. And not that I didn't want to be, but it was one thing to keep things up at the lake, keep things up at home. And, you know, I'm trying to be a good grandma. You know, I'm loving my grandkids, want to be there and with them and help the girls out with the kids and this and that. And I had lost my dad a few years prior to that, 2 years. And so my mom's alone. Wow. I'm going to help my mom. You know, I have a brother, but he doesn't live locally. So I want to help my mom, you know. And so I'm just feel like I'm being torn a lot of different directions. But, you know, I'm like, oh, my gosh, here I am. I'm very fortunate. I have a husband that wants to be with me. You know, it's like, that's not always the case.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. Okay, so I go to this thing where it's like, okay, God, your spouse, your kids, and so forth. So I did that. Thank goodness, not knowing what was coming.
Right.
But so I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to prioritize all these people in my life that I want to do things for and be with. So did that, and looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness
For that time.
Yeah. So then, let's see, where are we at then? So so August of 2020, this is one thing I'll never get over. It was time to get a new pocket planner. Like, I'm kind of old-fashioned that way. A lot of people use their phones. I still like to write it down
I'm
in
with
my.
ya.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I just have to.
Yep.
So it was August of 2020, and I'm thinking, I got to get a new calendar, you know, starting to need to write things down for 2021, you know. So I'm like, I need to get that.
That's amazing. In August, you're already thinking about 2021.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
You
okay.
have doctor's appointments
yes.
or something.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I'm like, I need to get my new planner. Well, forever and ever and ever, all I bought for years were these Lang pocket planners. No big deal. 2-year planners. And here's
I had
3.
never even seen one of those. Sarah uses that to like schedule all of her. I'd never seen them until she had them, but wow, look at that.
So yeah, you guys, I always got the same one, Lang, and every year. Not this time. In August of 2020, why, I don't know. Well, I do know why now, but I get this one.
Wow.
It says, with
So-
God, all things are possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it struck me. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But maybe because, you know, I'd done God, Troy, you
Yeah.
know, all this. So anyway, maybe it was just a little more fresh in my mind. But I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll get that one.
Yeah.
Had no idea that Troy was, at that point, he was so sick. And we just didn't know what was wrong.
Right.
But anyway, I didn't know that. And I mean, I don't know. And I guess it's because I bought these for years, never questioned what I was just going to get a new one every year.
Right.
Now, what are the chances?
Right. No, I'm with you.
I'm
I think the
sorry.
things
To me-
that God does and
Yes.
that are the little things.
Yeah.
But now you look back on and be like, oh my gosh, God was
Yeah.
working.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I never thought about not getting a Lang pocket calendar.
And you never
So-
will again.
No. Yeah, this was the first one I bought in 2020. And I bought the same one again. And I will always buy this one now.
yeah.
Don't say always.
Well, no. Right. Anyway.
Hey,
so
Not a girl,
we're being
Jennifer.
obedient to what God wants us, and He'll speak
Right.
to us in our calendars.
that's true. But anyway, that was just a
Yeah,
huge thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, and then it was in September when we started realizing, you know, what was happening.
Yeah.
And that's when the nightmare began.
Right.
So, but I wanted to be able to, you know, show people that, you know, God is working in their lives, even if they don't realize it at the time. I mean, that's one thing that has blown my mind. The thing where, you know, Troy wanted more of my time, and I prioritized it,
Right.
and so thankful. Like that was a gift.
Yeah, because the thing that we forget, and this is what I try to remind everything, the only thing that you cannot get back is your time. That's why I'm always such a huge proponent of like plan every minute of your day based upon the priorities of your life. Do the best. And again,
Yes.
I do the best I can. I'm still not good at it. Try to be as good as I can. I probably prioritize things that I shouldn't. But the point is just this: you will never get back the minute. In fact, I showed Trey Gerber the other day in my journal. I write down at the top, I've done it for years, how many days I have left. So I have 9,487 days left, and it just keeps going down, and I journal every day just to remind myself, I will never get back today. Never.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that, because tomorrow it's going to be 86 and 85, and I mean, Lord willing, whatever, it might be way less than that, but that's just a reminder every single day. You do not. The one thing that you do not want to waste is your time. And that's what you're saying.
That's
you
what
made
I'm
a choice.
saying. God gave me the opportunity to make Troy, higher. And, I mean, Troy and I were fine in our marriage. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like we didn't spend time together. Like I say, we spent all of our time together for the most part. And we as individuals, we never thought we were any better than anyone else.
Right.
But we felt like our marriage was better than others.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and what I say is I'm thankful that we realized that it was.
Right.
We, as individuals, we're no better or different than anybody else, but we really did have a better marriage, I feel like, than a lot of people.
Right.
Which I feel like looking back now, well, that was a gift.
Yeah.
And that's how I have to look at it.
Right.
Like, some people never get what Troy and I had for 37 years. So I just have to be thankful. I tell myself, be thankful. Don't, even though I still don't like it. And I think God's okay with me saying
You
that.
can be thankful and not like it at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I just think God's a big God, and he understands our emotions, and he understands the things we're going through, and he's not mad about us being real. I think the thing is, you'll see this throughout all of Scripture. The only people he got mad at were fakers.
Okay.
You know what I mean? All the time that he looked at people, the thing that made him the most mad is people who will be fake. That's why I'm like, listen, be real with him. I mean, be authentic. He's looking for authentic people, not robots, not people that just go through the motions. Be authentic, be real, share your story. It is what it is. We're authentic people on a journey, loving the Lord to the best of our ability, hitting potholes and bumps and tires falling off and wrecks on the side of the road. But at the end of the day, we love Jesus, So.
Yes. And like you said a couple of weeks before Christmas, you said, don't worry about what people are going to say. If you have something to tell them, you can't worry about what they're going to say. And that gave me comfort coming into this. Like, okay, can't worry about what anybody's going to say afterwards. But, at least I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But
it's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
Real people.
Yeah. Well,
there's enough fakers in the world, and people listen to them all the time. But when there's an authentic story, people are drawn to authenticity.
Yeah. And so, but I also wanted to say, so we bought that lake house in the summer of 2019, did our repairs or whatever. And Troy said, I'd like to have it, because I was like, look, we're going to put it up for sale, because I'm thinking, get this thing up for sale. We gotta back up here.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd like to have it for one full summer before we sell it. I'm like, well, so would I, but goodness, should we be doing this?
Right.
Well, we did. He's like, we can hold on to it for one more summer. I'm like, okay, because it was the best place for the kids and Troy and I to spend time. The family time we had up there was worth no amount of money.
Right.
I mean, not that you have to go out and spend big money, but I'm just like, looking back now, you guys, that was a gift. That time, that house was not about us remodeling it and making money on it. That time, it was a gift. I just know it was.
Right.
Because, sometimes I think back, why didn't we know what was wrong with Troy until it was way too late, way too late. And, I don't know all those answers, but part of me is like, well, out of that, because I don't think we would have ever caught that soon enough to ever really save his life. But so I look at it as that gave Troy that summer he wanted at the lake.
Right.
I mean, because if we would have found out in May of that summer of 2020 that what was going on. Well, game over once you get that diagnosis.
No, yeah.
You can't just keep going on and enjoying. I mean, you need to. I'm just saying, Troy wanted that summer at the lake, and he got it.
Well, and the time that you had together as a
And
family
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
prepared you for what was to come.
Right.
So, I mean, as prepared as you can be.
I can't put a price on what that lake house meant to our family.
Right.
And here, I was all fretting about the finances and stuff. And it's like, that's not what it was about this time.
Right.
But with that being said, after Troy passed, I thought, oh, people say don't make too many decisions too quickly or whatever, even though you start processing, what do I need to do? I need to do this. I thought, okay, I'm not going to sell the lake house right away. The kids and I will try it, see what it's like. Well, of course, nothing's the same without him there.
Right.
But I kept it for another summer. And then, lo and behold, the housing market is on fire.
Right.
So, and I decided with the kids, I couldn't keep two places. It didn't make sense for me to move up there, leave Wabash. Anyway, so I sold it, and I sold it for more than we paid for it. And
Right.
I'm like, it ended up being another blessing just as far as, how do I want to say this? Because I don't want to stress money part, because
Right.
not at all. But when you lose your husband, and that's your moneymaker,
Right.
to
There
get
is
through
a
life,
stress. It
there
is
is
a
a stress
reality.
in it. Well, then I made money, it ended up being something that helped me.
God provided.
God, yes, that's
God
what
provided.
He was providing for me, and I'm thinking, I had it all wrong. I should have just. Sometimes you just have to let God do His thing, or what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, that whole, I look back at that and it's like, wow, how that turned out. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you continually say is what, our listeners are seeing and the people that are watching are seeing is that God, whether you know it or not, is always working in the background, and it always has. He does have you, even though it seems like there ain't no way.
And that's what I guess I wanted to try to tell through what I have just lived through.
Right.
That is so true.
Right.
And I couldn't have done it on my own. There is no way.
Yeah.
There is no way. And I just know He's with me, meaning God. Because I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have gotten to this point on my own. It's taken me 3 years. But, I think, I don't know.
Yeah. Taking
But-
steps in the right directions.
Yeah. So that was just another thing that I look back at as a gift in a way, where God was working, and
Yeah.
we had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. But, another thing I wanted to mention that I look at as a gift, which really is, and I think you guys will agree, but unfortunately, the day Troy passed, our daughter Cassie was in the hospital in labor with her third child, and within just a few hours of Troy passing, we're given a new life. And, I'm just, again, on something like that, I'm like, what are the chances that close together, just a few hours apart? We lose Troy, which is just, devastating, unimaginable at the time. You just, because you think that's not going to happen to you, to lose someone like that. Well, but then we're given little Corbin Troy is his name. So, on the 19th of November every year, still, that day, I don't know how to say it other than I'm glad when it comes and goes. Like, it's just a yucky day for me. And I think for the kids as well. But we have Corbin to celebrate that day. And that has been so helpful the last couple years. I mean, I can't explain that. And I can't help but look at that as a gift.
Right.
And God worked, yes, I took from your family, but I'm also giving to your family. And we have Corbin to celebrate, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the chances of that happening, I never dreamed that we would lose Troy and have Corbin the same
Right.
day. And I know when you first came, when Troy was sick, and I remember you saying something to the effect, I don't even remember for sure what we were talking about, because like I said, I was sitting there thinking, whose life is this? This is not our life. Why is the preacher here? Why is Troy sick? What are we doing? But I remember you saying to Troy, well, you want to see your grandchild being born? I remember Troy was like, well, yeah. Like, well, why wouldn't that happen?
Right.
She's due here in about 6 weeks.
Right.
Of course I'll see my grandchild. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't make it to see.
Yeah.
And even when you said that day, I thought, well, why wouldn't he see his grandchild?
Right.
I thought, she's due in November.
Saw her from a different perspective. Saw from a
Yes.
different perspective. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it all the time. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
he didn't get to see that baby, and I hate that for Corbin.
Yeah.
To never know he's grown. But
Yeah.
yeah,
for sure.
We'll work through that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was another thing that I felt like was a
Yeah.
gift
Yeah.
looking back. So
You have other stuff on your. No, again, we just want to make sure you
Yeah.
have an opportunity, because
Yeah.
there is no. We're at an hour, but if
Okay.
you got other stuff that you want to go
No.
through,
I got a couple hours till my next thing,
Yeah.
so you keep talking as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, really, I feel like we covered everything that I felt like was on my heart to share.
yeah,
Just, the strong foundation being so important. And, because people are funny when you approach them about things. Like, people, I feel like, don't want to be preached at.
no, for sure.
That's when they are like, no, thank you,
Right.
And that's why I thought, well, maybe this is a chance where I can say a few things.
Yeah.
And people won't take it wrong. If they don't want to listen to me, they
Right.
can,
Right.
shut me off or
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But I felt like I had so much to share about my faith and
Right.
and God working in lives, and there is hope. If you can rely on God, like I would have thought there was no hope
Right.
for me to get myself together.
Right.
Never saw it coming, because we were, got married got married in high school. We were dating in high
Yeah.
school. I had a ring on my finger in high school. I was engaged. Who does that? I was supposed to go to Ball State. I was, accepted, enrolled, had my roommate. I was going up. That's just what the Irvins did. That's my maiden name. That's what they did. They were huge college people. My uncle was the assistant dean of students on campus at the time. My brother, all my cousins. Anyway, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I was the first one not to go.
You rebel.
I was supposed to go, but,
Yeah.
and I always wondered. I thought, why didn't I go on to school?
Yeah.
Because my kids are like, Mom, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Well, looking back, I'm like, I can't help but think God gave me those 4 years
Yeah. Extra time.
with Troy
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have gotten, because God knew what was coming down the road.
Yeah.
I didn't. But anyway, I feel like now I know why I got rid of my plans to go on to school and said yes and got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
crazy.
well, I love that. I mean, there's multi parts of your story today that, I mean, so many people can glean stuff from the idea of, because I said this a long time ago, is that, the struggle with the local churches, there are no men. Like, part of the problem is that a lot of women are coming without their husbands because, for whatever reason,
Right.
not a priority, bitter towards the church. Like, there's just a lot of reasons, and that you are still, a wife that would continue to walk that journey and be willing to walk alongside, knowing that through your life and through your example, that your husband, that God's going to keep working on him. Right. So
Yeah.
there's that facet of it. It's that, inside of this journey that, yeah, I mean, just when you think, because this is I see in people's life, just when you think it's all the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? You're at the prime of your life. We raised all of our kids. We got to this place. We're Troy's going to church. Like everything.
Yeah, now it's about us again.
Right.
You know,
right. Now you can enjoy the second half. Like you did all the hard work. Now you get to enjoy the second half. That although that was completely interrupted by God, that you can still praise him. I mean, I think that's the other cool thing about your story is that we can still say, I don't like it. We can still say, I wish it was different. We can do all of those things, but it doesn't mean that we're not praising him. It doesn't mean that you're not going to, like what you did today is to come on and share that, like, God's good. You know, sometimes this comes across as just a theme. God is good all the time, but he is good all the time.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Yeah. Some of those things, like you say, people say them and people don't think much about it.
Right.
Until you have to think a lot about
Right.
it. And then it makes sense. And that's why I'm saying, like, you say these things on Sunday mornings, and I think some people, I'm sure, it goes
in one ear and out the other. I already know. It's okay.
I'm sorry. That's not what I meant.
I don't mind. I understand.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yes, I know what you're saying.
They don't get it.
Right.
But what I'm saying is people they need to listen to you because it's real.
Yeah.
Like it
And
does make it, you know, the foundation makes a difference. Like that vase that
right. And that's what I was going to say. That's what's monumental too. Is like all of us have all of these experiences, but one of the things that will define you, and it defines everybody, is whether you will choose at your crossroads, as the rug getting pulled out, as your house is falling down, the choice that you will make, who do you love more? This world, because for some people it's a job, for some people it's a profession, your child, your spouse, your parent. Like we have to make a decision if we are just passing through, right? If we are just here for a while, then what will define us is that then we will live that way when things of this world are taken away. And that's where you're at. Like, that's the monumental piece. So
that's exactly where I'm at. And that's what I have figured out is, and I didn't think about this much before, but I figured out this life really isn't about us and what, I mean.
Yeah. Because the pieces of this life keep getting plucked away. I mean, this is for all of your life.
Yeah.
Different pieces of this life get plucked away. As Christians who are just passing through, we can make decisions to live in new chapters in new ways because this isn't our home. Like we're passing through and it's a new chapter, and we're passing through and it's a new chapter. And God, again, just keeps taking little pieces away. But I think it's the whole like refinement of us.
Yes.
When he takes away, it refines us even more. When he takes away, it gets us even more focused. And I just think that's monumental about your story. And I love that you were sharing that I think, because a lot of us can learn through that of how to move through chapters of life and not try to put the old life back together. So
I have way more, I'm sure, that I could have shared, but you guys get the gist of what I'm just wanted to share and hope that maybe someone
this is awesome.
help or
loved it.
means something.
Yeah.
You know. So
Jennifer, you want to send us out?
I can send us out. So if you're not a part of our podcast, rewind. If you're not part of our podcast texting group, you can text the word podcast to 260-408-8383. Let us know if you have any suggestions of anybody you want to be on the podcast or you yourself want to be on the podcast and share your story. We would love to have you on.
Yeah. And so don't forget, they put this out. I'm not sure when this one will go out, but a day or two afterwards when we do this podcast. So once you see it on Facebook, you guys that are out there and you're scrolling through, stop. One way that you can help us be able to get this story out. Because remember, we do this multiple times in a week because we believe in the power of story. We believe that people's stories will change the world and change people's lives. So if you're scrolling through, stop, like, share, or comment. That helps this get on to other other feeds and gets an opportunity. If you're listening, right, to this, make sure that you go on our YouTube channel so that you can watch. That way you can see Kelly. That way she's, are you a first service or second service?
First service.
Okay, so she comes to the first service, 4 rows back in the middle, 5 rows back in the middle. Make sure you come up, say hi. And again, I'm going to speak for you, Kelly, but if you're somebody that is struggling, somebody that is going through some of those things, are trying to figure out new chapters in life, I would suggest come and talk to her. Like somebody that I'm pretty sure that she would be willing to walk with you in that journey, help share with her story. And
I would. And yes, I have so much I could share with
Yes.
someone if they need it or want
that's what
to
I'm
hear
saying.
it.
Yeah, because if you're
Yep.
out there and you do know that there are people out there that you can talk to, because there is something about a shared experience. And if you can,
Yeah.
you walk down that journey with other people, I think that would be helpful. So don't forget that.
Yes.
So if you see her on a Sunday morning, come up and say hi. Even if you don't need anything, come up and say hi anyway. Introduce yourself. It's
So,
great and had a great story. And we're so thankful that you came on and so thankful that we get to share and be a part of, and not only hear what God has done, I'm super excited of what he is going to do, because with every storm, comes something out of it. And so I'm just super excited to see what God's going to do, moving forward in the future. So
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm open to it now.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the place.
Yeah,
We'll
good.
See what happens. So.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for listening and or watching, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Bye.